Hello and welcome back to Politically Incorrect. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, tonight we have an outstanding group of town leaders on the show, and this year they happen to be candidates for higher office here in Chelmsford. With me tonight we have Joe Reddy. How are you, Joe?
I'm doing excellent. How you doing, Tom?
Good, good. I was very pleased to see that you pulled papers last Friday, a few days ago, to run for Selectman. And the papers are due in today, but you did get your papers in okay, right, Joe?
I did. I actually submitted them yesterday.
Oh,
so
good.
pulled papers on Friday. Obviously I had a lot of support from people that were, happy to see that I had stepped up to the plate. Went out, got my sheets out to all of my volunteers, also went to the farmer's market.
Yeah.
I actually did a little bit of door knocking, stood at a couple places, and got all the signatures I needed. I submitted them yesterday, so hopefully they're going to be certified soon, and we're going to get started with the campaign. So,
wonderful.
Yeah.
Did you order any signs yet? We'll talk all about this later,
Yeah.
but did you order signs?
I've been designing signs.
Design, good,
so
yeah. I think I saw one your sister. You can have a green and white theme or something?
Yeah, green and white. That's kind of, it's always been
really
my election theme, so I'm going to
Yeah.
stick with that, and hopefully that brings me good luck.
Nice,
Luck of the
nice.
Irish, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll talk a lot about the campaign and what your goals are and everything about it in a few minutes. But let's see, you're also town meeting representative, right, Joe?
I am.
Precinct
I'm a
1?
town meeting representative for Precinct 1.
And
yeah.
how many years have you?
Well,
had that?
I've been a town meeting rep, I think collectively for about 10 years in 3 different precincts. But I think I've been elected close to 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
I've got some funny stories I can tell you about that too, if you.
Oh, maybe later
Yeah.
if we have time. And you're also a real estate broker, right, with your own company?
I am. So I own Ready Real Estate here in Chelmsford. Yeah. Very proud of it. It's our offices are actually in the Mills in North Chelmsford, and just a great town to work in.
Wonderful. So. Yeah, it's going well, right? How long have you had the company now?
Yeah, we actually launched it at the end of 2010, and so we're pretty much going into our 3rd solid year of being in business, and.
Wow.
I attributed that both to what we've done as far as structuring it, but also because of the people that our past customers and clients that have given us a lot of business, and I appreciate all of their backing. So
wonderful. Are you on any other committees that you might want to mention, Joe?
Yeah, I currently sit on the Economic Development Commission,
Yeah.
The vice chairman for that, and I've been doing that for a number of years as well. We were I actually sat on that board since the inception of it.
Yeah.
Where the town actually ended up letting go of their marketing personnel director, and ultimately they formed this committee to kind of take over that void. And we've done a lot of branding and I think a lot of great things over the last couple of years to try to make Chelmsford stand out from other communities, especially to try to bring more commercial business to Chelmsford, hopefully eliminate some of our vacancies. So that's been a lot of our goals, and I think we've done a pretty good job so far. So
wonderful. Well, thanks for being here, Joe.
Absolutely.
It's only your
Thanks for having
second
me on
time
the
so
show.
far, but hopefully it'll be. I know you've been doing your own show lately with your father. How's your father doing, by the way?
My father is doing excellent. He's just rehabbing, working with physical therapy. For those that don't know, he had his leg amputated due to diabetes, but he's got really good spirits, and he's always loved Chelmsford and wanted to volunteer, and I just wanted to keep that show going for him because I think it's important for everyone in town to have a platform to come and talk about what they're doing locally, and that's why I think what you do is so great too. I think people that have these shows just empowers the community, and that's I think an important part. So.
Thanks. Do you have any idea when your father might be ready to come back to host the show?
Yeah, I think probably when it gets a little bit warmer. I think we're targeting probably like a May time frame. Yeah. My goal was to try to make that transition for him. I really did want him to come back and host his show. He was still executive producer. Yeah. He's still been calling all the guests and bringing them in. Oh. So he's been doing a great job with that. I'm probably going to step down in the interim while I'm running for Selectman, just to give kind of equal access to my opponents. And really just focus on the campaign. So
wonderful. And will he have a prosthetic by the summer or something, or the spring, or you don't know?
He's working on it. I mean, that's really the goal. I mean, when it comes to rehabilitation, one of the things that you want to do is try to get your legs strong enough. So he's doing all of the rehab things that he needs to be doing, and just trying to get acclimated to being in in his house and trying to get to and from places without having the obviously assistance of a second leg. So
Yes. Well, as you know, I'm a big biker, right? And
Yep.
I've gone on bike rides where this middle-aged woman, there's a biker, a little younger than myself with a prosthetic limb, and she was fantastic. And just like a normal leg, she's biking great, walking great. So hopefully it'll be the same with your father.
yeah, I mean, I'm in Rotary, and we have people in Rotary that also have prosthetic legs, and they do really, really well. And I think it's just a matter of, it's all about attitude, and certainly his condition, it's terrible that had to happen, but I'm sure he's going to make the best of it and try to come back. So
Great. Well, we're looking forward to him coming back, and we'll talk to you more about the campaign and everything. Thanks,
absolutely,
Joe.
yeah,
Thanks,
appreciate
Joe.
it.
And we have also with us my good friend Jon Kurland with us tonight. How are you, John?
I'm well, Tom. How are you?
Good, good, thanks. I think, what is this, John? Your 11th, right, time on this show? Yes, John, 11th.
If you say so.
Yeah, I can't
count that high.
My Excel spreadsheet, but you're in double digits and now heading up to 20 pretty soon. Not just 10, but 11.
There you go.
So that's great. So John, as everyone probably knows, John is a candidate for Town Moderator this year, and we'll talk a lot about that on the show tonight.
Well, I hope so.
So thank you for talking about that. John is also a former member of the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen.
Right.
Recently left that post fairly recently.
Right.
And has also been a chairman of that board.
Right.
John has also been a longtime member of the Chelmsford Finance Committee.
Right.
And also chairman of that committee as well.
Yes.
For a number of years. And John also is an attorney here in Chelmsford with a wonderful practice, I think, on Route 129, right? Billerica
Yes,
Road?
Billerica Road.
Very nice. And how's that going, John?
It's going well. It's going
good,
well.
good. And John is a longtime town meeting representative in Precinct 1.
Right. I started
And-
out in 5, and then they switched me over to 1. So
Yeah, that's too bad they switched you. But I've always been in 9 for like 20 years now, so that's good.
yeah,
But-
it's harder when
You're
especially
switch, right?
1 is a very competitive
Yep.
precinct, and they always seem to have more than the number of positions available. So it was sort of challenging where I felt comfortable in 5 for a number of years,
Yes.
being switched over to 1. But
Yeah, and that's right. You bring up an important point that in the past, we very often had competition in most of the precincts. That is, we had 7 or 8 or more candidates, and this year is the worst I've ever seen it. The papers were due in by today, and there are many, many openings for town meeting representatives. 1 or 2 precincts have more than enough. Some might just have enough. But many still don't even have blanks, not enough people running yet. So
Yeah.
people are going to have to go as write-ins. And we'll talk maybe about why that might be later in the show. But it's very sad, and because town meeting representative is basically the legislative body of the town, and it's very, very important.
That's right.
You vote on the town budget. You vote on all kinds of fire stations, police stations, any big capital expenditures for the town, new big changes of policy that might happen in the town in terms of, a big change to a certain zoning law or whatever. It's just an important position. Yes, it's twice a year, maybe 3 or 4 meetings sometimes per season, but it's very important. So
that's right.
I wish people would step up more, but maybe next year.
Well, let's hope.
Let's hope so. Thanks for being here, John. Any other committees that you're on?
Not right at the moment.
the
No,
moment, okay, yeah.
I sort of was between gigs.
Yeah. Well, you have plenty there on the plate there with running for town moderator. You have your own attorney's practice. You're a town meeting rep, precinct
Right.
1. So, I mean, you have a lot going on, John. So,
Well,
thank you for,
my pleasure.
for serving the town. And we have my friend Andrew Silinsh with us for only the second time, I think, Andrew.
Right, second time.
And so Andrew is running for Library Trustee this year for the 1-year position, which is nice. It happened to be vacated by yours truly, but so I'm glad you stepped up to the plate and are going to fill that position, Andrew. What do you think
I
about
was
it?
real happy that since I go to the library a lot, I ran into Becky, a couple times, and
Yeah.
when that opening was available, she let me know there was an opening available, and so
Yeah.
I pulled the papers and worked with some of the other people. Got yesterday I turned in the
Oh, you turned in your papers
I
yesterday?
turned the papers yesterday.
Good.
And that worked pretty well. I got to reacquaint myself with some of the people that I don't see every day, and I
Yeah.
have a chance to go and see some of the people. The only issue I had now, you guys that run more often, in our church there's this woman is 94 years old, and I know I've known her for 30 years, and I was getting a signature or two, and it's, you know, I have to ask her, because you know, she sees what's going on, and she signed, you know, maybe the signing wasn't the best, and I hope that's is going to work okay. Well, I got about 8 extra ones, so I'm
good,
okay.
good.
But I just felt like whether it comes out good or not, I need to ask her,
Yes.
because I like her. I like to get her. Connie Frank, she's been in the town, and her husband a long time ago. And they had this old house in that East Chelmsford, I guess, right across where the Scouts used to. There's a Scout.
Oh yes,
there's
yes, I've been there. Yeah.
There's an ancient house that used to be a pub, you know, 200 years ago, that she lives in now that she's a widow.
Wow. And you're also a town meeting representative, right, Andrew?
Right, town meeting representative. I was elected actually the first time they had town meeting reps. And then after 2 years, I was redistricted out, and work was so hectic, I didn't run, you know.
Yeah.
But then then I came back, and I've been like 5 or 6 years now.
Wonderful.
Currently.
Are you on any other committees in town? Republican Town Committee?
I'm a Republican
I
Town
saw
Committee.
you met a political party Friday night.
Yeah.
That's where I probably got this cold, but anyway.
No.
All that shaking of hands. I'm nothing against them, but all the I shook, what was it, Charlie Baker gave a nice talk there that night. I shook his hand a couple of times, and many other people, including Andrew. What'd you think of that Friday night at the VFW Hall in North Chelmsford?
We do that each year around the time of Lincoln's birthday. And
it's called Lincoln Reagan Dinner or something like
right,
that?
Right, and the chairman of our committee comes in dressed as Lincoln with a hat.
Yeah.
And that's kind of serious but humorous too. It's rather fun and to remember Lincoln, and then for us Republicans, we like to remember Reagan too.
Yes.
And go back and bring out some of the highlights of these people.
Yeah. In fact, during that night, Andrew and I were doing the Gettysburg Address together, and I could do it like halfway through, but Andrew knows just about the whole thing. So maybe at the end of the show tonight, if we have time, we'll ask Andrew to.
If you want.
And maybe I'll chime in a little bit here and there. It's a wonderful address, right? A great speech, nice and short,
Right.
but very profound and meaningful. So thank you, Andrew. But you reminded. Oh, go ahead.
I'm also on the tree committee.
Oh.
I'm a co-chair of the tree committee.
Yeah.
And we're working hard now to get Chelmsford acknowledged as a tree city. It's called city, I guess, maybe town. But we have to do some paperwork to get that done. Another year or so, we should be able to become a recognized tree city, which would be nice.
Wonderful.
Now we can have a chance to apply for grants once that happens for some trees that we might want to plant around the streets.
That'd be fantastic, especially when we redo the center. Wouldn't it be nice if we have a walkway along Beaver Brook and have some nice trees making an archway around the brook? That's what it's like on the bike path. I know you've probably all been on the bike. I know I saw John there many times. And I have many photos. It forms a nice umbrella around the path, all these trees, you know, it's beautiful. I might enter one of those photos in the 4th of July show just because somebody suggested I do
You
that.
should.
But Joe, Andrew reminded me about Scouts, that you and I are both Eagle Scouts, right?
It's true, yep.
You're in that Eagle Scout group that I have on Facebook. We only have like 13 or 14 members still.
Right.
And I've had it for 3 years. But anybody who's an Eagle Scout has any association at all with Chelmsford, you don't have to live here now, just please join the Chelmsford Eagle Scouts group on Facebook. We aren't doing anything there yet, but if there's some information about a current Eagle Scout award, we post it, that kind of thing. So Joe, was it okay if we start with Joe and we'll talk to Joe, and then with John and Andrew? And so Joe, could I say, why did you decide to run for Selectman this year?
Well, for starters, I've wanted to be Selectman since I was 6 years old, so it's not a new thing for me. It's a passion I've had for a long, long time. But you know, the truth is that it takes a certain skill set, a certain level of leadership, and it takes a certain time commitment to be able to do the position. And you know, I think that you know, over the past 30 or so years, there really was never a good time. Obviously, I'm 32, but I looked at when I was younger, I really probably wasn't ready to do the job or experienced enough. In the past couple of years, I was, trying to commute in and out of places, so I really didn't have the ability to, go to the meetings that I needed to go to, meet with constituents. But now that I own my own business, I've established it. I'm in Chelmsford all of the time. I'm my own boss, so I have my ability to I do things by appointment, so I'm able to schedule things in advance. So if, for instance, I need to meet with somebody or there's somebody that has concerns, they want to meet with me, I can be readily available to them. And I think that's really the key to the job. And Jon did a fantastic job when he was selectman, and I think he can tell you that, in order to do a good job, you need to be able to communicate with people, understand their concerns, weigh both sides, and then try to make the best decision for the town and move forward. And truthfully, we're losing a really good public servant in Jim Lane. I thought he did a fantastic job. I'm not running because I think that the person in the position's not doing a good job. This is a vacancy. I think I can pick up on a lot of the things that Jim left off on. I love Chelmsford. I think it's a great community. I think it's filled with volunteers that put a lot of their time, their heart, their soul into it. I'd like to continue the effort of recognizing those people for all the efforts that they put in. And I do think that I can add to the mix when things come up. I certainly have been around town for a long time, born and raised in Chelmsford, went to Chelmsford Public Schools.
You went to college too, Joe?
I went to college, went to Suffolk University in Boston.
In Boston?
Yep, got my
BA?
Yep, got my BA in business management.
Right.
I've even taken, a spattering of master's courses while I was working at different universities. I worked at Harvard Law School for a number of years. I took a couple of master's classes there just to kind of, entertain myself. But at the end of the day, it's a community I've always loved. So I've always had my finger on the pulse of what's going on. And I also have a family that had been actively involved, long before I was. So, it's just kind of in the ready blood, and it's something that I just couldn't shake out, I guess. So,
yeah, wonderful.
So I'm here, and I'm, I guess what I offer out to people is, if they have any concerns or if there's something that, they'd like to run by me, they're certainly willing to, pick up the phone, give me a call anytime on my cell phone.
Could you give out your number?
978-884-6972.
Great.
They can call me anytime, and I'm happy to talk to them about whatever issues they may have, and I'll go and I'll try to weigh both sides and go from there. So.
Wonderful. And your campaign, Joe, do you have a campaign party date lined up yet?
I'm actually working on it as we speak. It's probably it's going to be the weekend of the 15th and 16th.
March?
In March, actually,
yeah.
We're going to do a St. Patrick's Day party.
Oh, nice.
And we'll have all of our, friends and family and anybody else that would like to come. It's open to the public. Come on in and get to know me.
Where's that going to be, did you say?
We're actually scouting locations right now.
Scout, yeah.
So, because it's a popular weekend, a lot of places are booked. But,
yes,
we've certainly looked at, the Center for the Arts, the old Town Hall in North Chelmsford,
yeah, that's
and also like the Princeton Station and a
Yeah.
couple of the Elks. So, your basic venues, we've taken a look at those.
Nice.
And we're just going to make a decision on, where we're going to have the party. But, I think we're anticipating quite a few people coming. So we want to make sure that it's a big enough space that we can accommodate everyone.
Wonderful.
So.
Well, it's too bad the new Chelmsford Country Club isn't finished, right, Joe?
I thought about that because I think it would have been.
It would have been great, right?
What a great place to have it.
I've gone to so many campaign parties there that have been wonderful. I think it's kind of big enough, but not too big, so it's intimate. You all could be around each other, and the tables surround the room. I think it's like a perfect venue for a campaign party.
And it's very Chelmsford. I mean,
Yeah,
it's you can't get any more Chelmsford than that. So it's I've had a few campaign parties there when I've managed campaigns, and I really think that it's just a great venue. But unfortunately, it's not available. So
This year,
but we will keep people posted. They can go to our Facebook page, and check out Joe Reddy on Facebook and and we'll have it
All
posted
right,
there.
Joe Ready, how will they find it on Facebook? Just-
Actually, I'm going to be linking up. I own joeready.com. They can go to joeready.com. It'll link to the Facebook page, and all of the information that they need will be there if they want to.
JoeReady.com, great,
Yep.
that's good, you got that?
If they want to, volunteer, feel free to go onto the Facebook page. We have, a sign-in sheet. People can go in and offer whatever help or just words of encouragement that they'd like to offer. So,
Wonderful. And your Facebook page, I think I liked yours and Bob's as well. It's called Joe Ready for Selectman or
yeah,
something?
Joe Ready for
Oh,
Selectman.
great,
so,
that's easy.
yeah.
And you already had over 200 likes on it. That was the first day or whatever.
Yeah, I think we're
So-
pretty close to 300 now, and
Wow.
I haven't really pushed it yet, but I
Yeah.
think I'm excited. I'm excited that people are happy about my run, and the more people that we can get involved, the better the process is.
Yeah.
So
And it looks like it might be you and Bob Joyce this year running for Selectman, two people running for one seat.
Correct.
That's going to be vacated, as you said, by Jim Lane. So it should be very interesting. I'm looking forward to the debates. And congratulations on running, and good luck with everything.
Thank
and
you.
And just to let you know, because I'm fair to all candidates, Bob Joyce will also be on my show at the end of March. He thought that was a good time that he wanted to come on. So that's when Bob will be on.
Excellent.
So thanks, Joe. We'll come back and talk about all kinds of town issues. But first, we'll talk, if we can, talk to Jon Kurland. And so, Jon, could you tell us why you decided to run for Town Moderator this year?
Well, I think that all voters should have an opportunity to have a choice, and I just thought that the skill set that I bring to the table and my approach to things is a little bit different than the current town moderator. So it's really a difference in style. Having been on the finance committee for better part of 8 years, I felt that I would be in a position to understand the types of people who should be appointed to the finance committee, which is one of the two functions really of the moderator besides running town meeting. And a number of people just asked me if I was interested in running, and I said, yeah, I am. So I decided to run.
Wonderful. And Jon, you're going to have a campaign party. What is it, March?
March 2nd at Princeton Station.
Station? Yeah.
Free admission, so anyone's welcome to
Admission,
join
right?
us.
Is that, maybe Dick DeFreitas has that too, because he's having one the following Sunday, I think.
Right, he's having one
At
as
the
well.
110 Grill.
Right.
And it doesn't mention anything about price either, or donation. So, but you would accept donations? Is
Well,
that how it
yes.
works? So are you
would
going to
hope
have
so.
are you going to have signs, Jon?
Yes, we're going to
So
have
a
signs.
regular
and-
campaign
Yeah,
and
I mean, this is sort of out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Dennis McHugh had been the moderator for so many years. I think it was about 30 years he was the
Yes,
moderator,
yeah.
and I don't know if when he first became moderator whether it was a contested position,
I don't
but
remember
certainly
that. Yeah.
since he's been moderator, it hadn't been.
No.
Nobody ever ran against him. And when Dick DeFreitas ran, he ran unopposed the last time.
Yeah.
So this is really the first time in a generation that we've had a contested moderator race.
Yes,
And so there's a little ramp-up time for people to understand that, yes, this is a position that we vote on, and that there are now two different personalities who are running for the position. And my attitude is that the moderator should be like an offensive lineman in football.
Yeah.
If the moderator's doing a good job, just like an offensive lineman, you never even know he's there.
Yep.
And my style would be to be, I want to try to restore the type of town meeting that we had when Dennis was running. Dennis and I spoke at length about being moderator, and I am very happy that he's actually supporting my candidacy. And I just sort of want to go back to that type of style. Nobody's ever going to be 100% happy with the job the moderator does, but I think overall people were very happy with Dennis's style and the way that he conducted town meeting, and that's what I want to try to restore.
Well, that would be wonderful, because he was a great moderator, as you said, and he ran unopposed all those years, which is indicative of how satisfied people were with him as a moderator. I thought he was very fair to everybody, and I'm sure you would be as well, Jon. And just to mention about fairness again, Dick DeFreitas is going to be on the show in mid-March, so we give equal time to all the candidates. So, Jon, How about your background again? I know we talked a little bit about it in the introduction, but could you say anything more about it, especially as it pertains to your maybe qualifications for a town moderator? Like how has being an attorney might have helped you, or your education, or your experience on the finance committee?
Well, I think being an attorney is a double-edged sword. I remember when I was running for selectman, people would come up to me and say, "You're an attorney? I'm not sure I want to vote for an attorney." You know, I've spoken to a number of people, and just based on my own experience, having an attorney who understands process, who understands procedure, is a good thing. Yeah. I think that when I was on the finance committee as an attorney, I brought a certain skill set that had not been on the finance committee. There has been a history of having an attorney on FinCom, but there wasn't right before I was appointed, and since I've been appointed, there has not been an attorney
on the FinCom,
on the finance committee. And it's, you know, the finance committee I think needs to be somewhat diverse. You need to have a lot of people who have some finance background in various different situations, but it's also nice to have someone who has the legal perspective. And I remember that when I was chairman of the finance committee for actually more than 2 years, because I finished out Sam Chase's chairmanship when he ran and became a selectman. There were things that I actually found out with my legal experience that were of tremendous benefit to the town, particularly when it came to the Neshoba funding issue. Having the experience of being a chairman for a number of years and also being a chairman of the Board of Selectmen, I think that people who have seen the way that I've run the Board of Selectmen meetings when I was chairman, they were efficient. There wasn't a lot of wasted time. And we got the business of the town done in a transparent and understandable manner. And that's what I want to do as the moderator, should I be elected.
Wonderful, John. Well, we'll see how things go. The election is April 1st, right?
Yeah, April Fool's Day, huh?
Yeah, I know. This is the first time I can remember an April Fool's, but it must have happened before, I guess. But I don't remember it happening at April 1st. So good luck with that,
Well,
John.
thank you.
And just talking a little bit about town meeting. When Dick DeFreitas came in, he's been instituting something, a 2-microphone kind of rule. And if you're on the right of the microphone facing the stage, the right microphone would be like yes, the left would be no. And it took a while for a lot of town meeting reps to get used to that, and a lot of them may not like that too much. Do you have any ideas about the 2-microphone?
Yeah, I have never been in favor of that process for a number of reasons, but the biggest one is that when you have one microphone, everybody's in line, and people don't know where people stand on the issue. And for example, Tom, if you had a perspective that was a little bit out of the mainstream, but was actually a pretty compelling argument, and everybody's lining up on the microphone opposite your position, you might feel intimidated to get up and be the sole voice of opposition, where if everybody's lined up at the same microphone, you're not intimidated that way. Not saying that you would be, but just so you understand. I also don't think that taking the microphones off the tables of the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee was something that I would do, because it's just time. And you know, when I don't see why, you know, if the Board of Selectmen or the Finance Committee chairman are asked what their position is on a particular warrant article, they should be able to just push a button and say, you know, we're in favor or we're opposed, as opposed to getting up, walking to a microphone, saying 2 or 3 words, and then sitting down again. Yeah. So those are the types of things that I would like to restore back to the way that it had been before.
Yes.
I don't think that the process was broken.
Yeah.
And I think that a good moderator is really a servant of the process, which is what I would like to be.
Yeah. And quite often, Dick DeFreitas would ask people to, like, speak to him up on the stage there rather than the person at the podium. He did change that after the 2nd year he was a town moderator. But you know what I mean? People would have to say, Mr. Moderator, the question is such and such, rather than looking at, say, Paul Cohen, whoever you're really addressing the question to. Do you have any thoughts about that, John?
Well, that's a traditional way to do it. The moderator is supposed to be able to moderate. I would be a little less formal about it, but the reason that they did it that way was because there might be a situation where the moderator might feel that, for example, town council might be the better person to address the question to than to the presenter, and the moderator could then take that opportunity. From my perspective, if the presenter feels as though town council can answer the question better, the presenter can very easily say, you know, perhaps let's ask town council what his position is.
Or the moderator can too, I think.
Oh,
That is
absolutely,
before the presenter-
absolutely.
you know,
but
that-
I don't want to step on anyone's toes
Yeah, I
in
think
that
so.
regard.
I think that-
So you know, again, it's really a matter of style, I think, and I want to restore a sense of mutual respect and between both sides. I think sometimes things got a little bit more contentious than they needed to in some town meetings. So I think we can avoid some of that, and I think that maybe if town meetings are run more efficiently and we don't have to necessarily spend 4 nights when we can get something done with 3 or 2 nights instead of 3, that maybe more people will run because it'll be less of a time commitment on their part.
I think that's why a lot of people didn't run this year. Just they heard about the 4 nights and getting out of there after 11 o'clock and getting home by maybe midnight or whatever, and they have to get up at 6 in the morning. Or it just was kind of too much for many people who have full-time jobs.
Do you think that was the case? Because I remember, you know, with McEwen, there were a lot of late meetings. There were a lot of late meetings, and they would go on, and it would frustrate everybody. And I think there were 2 issues that were really big at this last meeting. I think it was done a pretty good job to actually move those along. Because one of the things I like, if you have one person say against, and there's 20 saying yes, first, you know, after an hour, after listening to an hour, I think it's time to vote.
I
But this
don't
is an
disagree with you.
indication.
Yeah.
This is an indication. Otherwise, you don't know, because there could be a no person that should make their point, and they should stay there, like you say, if they give them all equal right. So going the other way, you don't know. You say, well, the only way I can give equal rights is let everybody talk an hour later. And those meetings, those are very heartfelt issues, this meeting.
Yeah.
I really felt
Oh,
that the
yes,
pumps,
Grinder pumps?
the grinder pumps, it was an issue
Yeah.
that everybody, I got letters at home asking to vote one way or the other. So
Yeah.
I think this
And it might be
kind
coming-
of helped that way to eventually put an end to because most of the people were for this.
Right, but the other thing that happened this past spring was town meeting normally runs from 7:30 to 11. And this year it was moved up to 7 o'clock, which created some discomfort for many people, because there are a lot of town meeting reps who work in Boston or they work outside of Chelmsford. And for them to fight the traffic and to get to town meeting, some of them went without meals. And you know, so if we go back to the 7:30 to 11, yeah, they're always going to, you know, it depends on how much work we have to do. But to Andrew's point, you know, it's up to the town moderator to say, listen, folks, we're hearing a lot of people saying the same thing. If you've got a different perspective, we certainly want to hear from you. But if it looks like, you know, it's a slam dunk, everybody's going to vote yes, or everybody's going to vote no, then let's you know, decide whether to put this to a vote. The other thing about the 2 microphones is, if I'm waiting in line and there's a long line on one side, and I've been waiting for 15 or 20 minutes to get up, and somebody walks up to the other microphone where nobody's there, that person gets to say his speech, and then I may be cut off from ever speaking at all.
If somebody moved the question, for example. right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I think that's not necessarily fair either.
Yeah, yeah. Well, wonderful. Well, it's going to be an interesting springtime meeting. I think the grinder pump issues are on the draft warrant at the moment.
Yeah, there's 2 different articles.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, 2 articles on the grinder pump. So
Yeah.
we might have maybe 3 nights again, probably at least, I would guess. Hopefully not 4.
Right, but the thing with the grinder pumps is that there is a committee that's working very diligently, and I know that they're meeting every week, I believe, or every other week to address those issues. And I think that they're going to have. I think the big problem with the grinder pumps last year was we were getting 2 different sets of figures from all, from the town and from these, the homeowners. And this way we'll at least be able to get a better handle on what the cost would be and what types of opportunities there are to provide relief. And I think town meeting is predisposed to doing that.
Wonderful, yes.
Providing some relief.
Yeah, great. Well, Andrew, I know we talked about why you're running for library a little bit before. So are there any concerns of the library, any things you'd like to see improved?
Well, one of the reasons I don't always go to the library a lot, I go and then summer and but this year, what happened 100 years ago? Well, it's a big thing happened worldwide 100 years ago?
Worldwide in
1914.
Well,
World War I. Okay, so it's and then World War I wasn't over until 1918. And the U.S. didn't join until 1917. Well, I think it's a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah.
Look at this. This is these are the books that the library has on World War I.
Yeah, that's good.
Two shelves, probably a yard each one.
He's zooming in on that if you want to.
Oh, great, yeah.
But you don't have to hold it up too long, but I wouldn't think.
And well, the big ones were these, but so maybe we can work something out. This is what Becky's has been done over the years. That book of the year, that's wonderful. I mean, to have those people come in and speak, and that when I can't senior moment, I can't think of the name, but the 3 Cups of Tea. When he came in to speak, the auditorium at the high school was full.
Yes.
Isn't that wonderful?
Oh yeah. So we had another guy who spoke. The guy who wrote Mystic River or whatever. That author was fantastic. Dennis Lehane.
Right.
Fantastic. And it was pretty full that year too.
But this would be a little different. It wouldn't be about a book. It would be about a subject.
Yeah.
And
so you're thinking of having some programs about World War I and things like that?
Right. The war didn't start till August or so.
Yeah.
So we have a little time.
Yeah, great.
And then we could do something every year. There were 1 or 2 major battles. And then later on you come in. Lawrence Arabia. Ever see that movie?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And that comes into World War. I didn't know how it fit in with World War I, but now that I've been reading it, it fits in. It was the British guy that was sent to the Mideast to kind of straighten things out. So there's a lot to learn about World War I, and I didn't learn much of it in high school. We just went over it.
I do remember that they dumped all the ammunition into the ocean, and I thought that was not a very good idea. It's probably still at the bottom of the ocean.
What happens is through my church, we have a couple of refugees from Cameroon. Cameroon, from Africa, was a French-speaking colony, French-owned colony, and so they're French-speaking. They came here, they're in high school and pre-high school, and they didn't know English. So we were tutoring them in our church maybe 3 years. But now the one that's a junior, he loves history. Now, and he calls me like the day before tests, what happened here in the Civil War, what happened there. Now he's calling me about World War I.
All right.
So that's how I got started about World War I. So,
yeah.
I know very little. In my high school, I don't think we mentioned it, but we don't have the details.
I see, yeah.
So maybe there could be some excitement.
And some speakers or whatever. I think Howie Carr is coming to the library, I believe this Friday morning. I'll be there. But I believe you had to reserve a spot. The spaces are limited.
Yeah.
I wish they had it in the auditorium or something, because apparently a lot of people wanted to go listen to Howie Carr. So we do have great speakers come in all the time at the library. It's fantastic. Yeah. But thank you, Andrew. Thanks. I was wondering if I could ask Joe. I know you talked a lot about running for the Selectman and things like that, but could you mention 1 or 2 of your top priorities if elected, Joe?
Sure. I think my first priority is, take over, where Jim Lane is going to probably leave off, with the Brook Walk. I think that is really a fantastic project. I know that he's actually there today, actually testifying in front of the Senate. And hopefully we get that money to come to Chelmsford, because if you look at that plan and what it will do for the downtown, I think it would interconnect everything into a way that would just make Chelmsford Center one of the most beautiful places in the world. Yeah, and so you know, from that perspective, I'd like to do that. I'd also like to try to bring more volunteers into the fold. So you know, hopefully I can spark a level of enthusiasm here in Chelmsford.
Yeah.
You know, try to make the position look easy for somebody with 2 young children,
Yeah.
and maybe some people that are within my same bracket will say, you know what, I can go out and do that too, and try to maybe even recruit and encourage them to do it. And I think some of that's through, you know, recognizing volunteers, and I think we do a good job of that anyway. But you know, a lot of people work for free. They put a lot of time, effort, you know, and their hard sweat into this community. So let's make them feel like they're getting something for doing that.
Yes.
So, you know, that'd be a top priority for me.
Wonderful. And you mentioned your children, Joe. How old are your children now?
Yeah,
And
so my
what-
daughter's, she's 3.5, she's gonna be 4 in June, and my son is 1.5 years. You know, so they go to, you know, preschool right now over at Club Kid, which is actually,
Where's that?
it's on Turnpike Road, which is actually the same road that I'm on.
Really? Oh, nice.
You know, closer down towards, you know, the industrial side of Mill Road.
Yeah.
And it's just a great place, and I think that the curriculum there is fantastic.
Even the 1.5-year-old is going to? the
Yeah,
school?
yeah, and the things that they work on at 1.5 is impressive.
What do they work on at 1.5?
Well, at 1.5, you work on a lot of fine motor skills, puzzles, trying to put pieces into place. You know, and believe it or not, you know, Andy and I were at Rotary yesterday, and we were talking with a man that came in. He was talking about education in Ecuador and how little education is provided to the children, the young children. And you have to actually test to get into school at 5 years old. And if you don't make the test, you basically work in the marketplace, and you're just relegated to having no opportunity in life. And you know, I think people forget at how great we have it here in America. And you know, early childhood education couldn't be more important. You know, the more foundation you get at an early age, the better chance you have at succeeding. You know, and you can hear people gripe all the time, like, "Oh, I didn't get correct change at the grocery store or something." You know, I could probably attribute that back to when that person was, you know, between 1 and 5 years old. You know, what kind of skill level things they were working on, and so, you know, I mean, I'm just happen to be in that life stage where I, you know, care a lot about my kids' education and what they're doing. But I do think that those are important building blocks to getting to where we are today and being a successful country. So,
Yes.
you know, and I think it starts in Chelmsford. You got to be, you know, local and just try to be active from that perspective. So.
Yes, wonderful.
Now, I know you're more serious on this, but you know what we could learn from that is, you know, when there's in the town common, when they have the farmers fair, we can put tents up there. We'll tell Frank Tiano about this. We can put tents up there and put the kids for kindergarten there, just the way they did it in there.
It's not a bad idea. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we donate books, right, with Rotary. I mean, it's, you know, kids are the foundation of everything, you know. I mean, if you look at Chelmsford, we got to focus on our children, got to focus on our seniors. Those are the two classes of people that really, you know, I think are very important, you know, and the people that need a voice. So.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Well, somewhat near you on Turnpike Road, there's a proposed 40B scheduled to go up, or I don't know if scheduled, but it's still going through the approval processes for Bill Road, possibly 108 or 120 apartment units. It's not fully determined yet, I don't think. So I was wondering if anybody had any thoughts about this. I'm sure you've all read about it and heard about it. And Joe's being in the real estate business, John, an attorney, might have some ideas about this, and former selectman, et cetera. So any thoughts about this proposed 40B on Mill Road? And as we all know, with 40Bs, it's not like a regular development that you could just stop locally. They seem to have some state authorization because at least 20% of the apartments will be affordable housing. The others will be market rate in this particular development. So any thoughts about this Mill Road proposed 40B?
Yeah, I think you got to take every project on a case-by-case basis. So I don't think anyone likes 40B. I think it's something that, you know, really needs to be modified at the state level. I think Chelmsford takes its unfair amount of 40B developments, or maybe just because we live here, but I feel like we get, you know, somewhat picked on. But the one thing I don't like about that particular project is I'm really against creep. whether it be, commercial going into residential or residential going into commercial. And that area is really a commercial area, and I don't think it's fair to the businesses in that area if that turns into a 40B development, because at the end of the day, that means we're going to be losing some commercial space that we're not going to have business revenue coming in. And eventually, when that infrastructure is completed, those residents will start to complain about the fact that they've got loading docks and trucks and things coming into that area. They won't forget they'll forget the fact that that was once a commercial zone. And the business owners in that area will probably feel the effects of that as a result, whether it's increased traffic from residents or what it might be. So I think it's really important to look at that. And for that reason, I don't think it's appropriate there. But certainly, our hands are somewhat tied. And I hate to come out and say, we should be vehemently against all 40Bs, because I think it's also important to look at things from a local perspective. And if we can do something through a local planning process, that gives us a little bit more control, a little bit more power to try to get some of the additional things that we may want as a community. And if we try to get a buy-in from the developer, sometimes they might feel like the things that we're trying to ask for may be cost prohibitive, and we may actually be able to dissuade a project from happening just from that by offering them a local process. So you really do have to take them on a case-by-case basis, but that's really the opinion I have on Mill Road.
Wonderful. Thanks, Joe. Any other thoughts on that?
My question is, and I've read what comes in the paper, but I probably should read more. There are like four 40Bs going on in Chelmsford almost same time. And I'm saying, wait a minute, is that right? Is that necessary? I don't know the answer.
Well, okay. Well, the River Neck Road one was one that had been set up a long time ago, and the economy basically prevented them from going forward. The one on Littleton Road, which is actually sort of a town-sponsored 40B, which is, that's going to be 100% affordable housing. And those are the types of 40Bs that here's the problem with 40B. The law is, as Joe said, is not a good law at all. And it's a law that disadvantages suburban communities like Chelmsford more than urban areas like Boston or Lowell or Lawrence or Springfield. And it doesn't affect really the rural communities like Lee or Stockbridge out far west. So we are a particularly attractive target for 40Bs because we have the infrastructure. As opposed to Carlisle, where the cost of land is high, they also don't have town sewerage, which is an amenity that makes a 40B much more attractive. The thing is that right now we could have a moratorium on the Mill Road 40B. However, that moratorium is only 1 year because we're starting construction on the Littleton Road one. So we get a 1 year window where we can basically say, we're not going to approve your 40B. The problem is that the developer can turn around and say, well, that's fine, we'll wait the year, and then we will put in whatever we want, because under 40B, they can do whatever they want, regardless of what our zoning situation may be. So what the town is trying to do is make the best deal that we can. Because once we get 10% of our housing stock as affordable, then we can deny all 40Bs. And that's the objective. So Littleton Road's a great project because Mill Road, it's 20%. It really doesn't make a huge dent in the 10% that we have to really attain.
Yes, thanks, John. Very good points. Does anybody have any thoughts on this year's or next year's town budget? I'm sure you have the sketches of it. John, being a former finance committee member, probably, and Joe, as a selectman candidate, probably has looked at the budget a little bit thoroughly. I don't know.
Yeah, I just think we need to look at, trying to do some budgeting for some of our liabilities, right? We talked about OPEB and some of the issues there, and maybe look at if that is a serious liability, trying to basically put more money into the budget to try to pay that down. If we do have a lot more free cash, how do we handle that, and trying to, budget for it. So.
In fact, that's one of our topics too. Right after the budget, we'll talk about a proposal by Janet Askenburg, the Selectwoman.
Right.
So.
I mean, I met with we had our morning coffee for Chelmsford.
How did that go, by the way?
It went reasonably
Pretty
well.
well attended?
Not as good as some of the other ones,
yeah.
but you know, we had
sorry, I
two
missed-
selectmen, Matt and Pat were there. Michael Barrett, our state senator,
yeah,
did
great.
show up, and it gave us an opportunity to talk to him. And part of the problem with our budget, to be honest with you, is that Chelmsford pays a disproportionate share of our local, you know, taxes, from real estate taxes and property taxes, on education. And that's because for forever we have not gotten our fair share of 70B money. The community,
Okay.
the community that mirrors Chelmsford.
Chapter 70, isn't it? Okay.
Yep, Chapter 7.
Yeah.
70. The community, did I say 70B? Chapter
Yeah.
70, you're right. The community that mirrors us most closely is Franklin, Mass. And Franklin is receiving $17 million more in Chapter 70 funding than Chelmsford does.
Yeah.
And if you broke, even if we got half of that, if we got $8.5 million more in Chapter 70 education funding, that would save the average real estate taxpayer almost $600.
Yeah, a year.
That's a significant amount of money.
Yes.
So when we were talking to Senator Barrett, we were, you know, he recognizes the problems with changing Chapter 70. Yeah. But we were trying to explore other ways that disadvantaged communities like Chelmsford and Stoneham could get other state aid to sort of lessen the impact.
Yes, yeah. Well, let's certainly hope so. But we've been talking about trying to get more Chapter 70 funding for years after years, and nothing ever seems to happen. And
that's because they have to take it away from another community to give to us,
it to
and they're not
us,
going to
and
do
the other
that.
communities don't cooperate with
Right.
that, so it's difficult. Well, Janet Askenburg's proposed a policy, and it was initially discussed at a selectman meeting recently, a couple of weeks ago, and it's going to come up again, I think, maybe at a very near future selectman meeting. And the proposal was to take half of our certified free cash and return that back to the taxpayers in some sort of property tax reduction, or so the increase of the property tax doesn't go up as much. So basically, put it in the property tax pool is what Jan is suggesting, half of the certified free cash. And the way it is now, some of that money, the free cash, if we have it, goes to our stabilization fund and a couple of other areas. John may remember them, or Joe. But anyway, so Janet didn't get a lot of enthusiastic reception from either the town manager or the other selectmen, from what I could see. I watched the discussion at the selectmen meeting, and it didn't seem like the other selectmen are going to go for it. And I know Paul isn't enthusiastic about it. So do you, Joe, as a selectman candidate, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I did reach out to Janet. I'm going to be sitting down with her this week to discuss, you know, her policy, get a better, you know, in-depth take from her. I'm also going to be sitting down with Paul, kind of get his perspective. And I have talked to some of the other selectmen about, you know, what they feel about it.
Yep.
You know, first I just want to say, her heart is in the right place, because you know, I think we ask our leaders to come up with solutions to problems. You know, she certainly is giving it, you know, 100%, saying, okay, how can we make this, you know, how can we do property tax relief? And so you have to commend her for that. I guess from just my experience, I don't like to see the town tie its hands when you never know what's going to happen on a year-by-year basis. So, you know, again, I go back to 2008 when we were in, you know, somewhat of a financial crisis, and obviously every community was. But, you know, we're talking about putting up billboards in the town and, you know, possibly putting advertising on our buses. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, I'd hate to see a situation where, you know, we've put a policy in that doesn't make sense. And I know that Jon was, you know, a big part of, you know, helping give some property, you know, some cash back during that last town meeting cycle. And so, you know, we always have that opportunity, and as a board, we can make that decision to try to give the free cash, you know, back to the taxpayers.
Yeah.
But I think you have to kind of look at the overall picture of that year and say, does it make sense to do it this year?
Yeah.
You know, I think she's just trying to, you know, come up with solutions, and that's not a bad thing.
Yes.
So.
And as you know, Joe, if you read her proposed policy, she does have a clause in there wherein if there's a problem in the town, if we really need that money to go elsewhere, that's fine, that the selectmen could vote that way. They just have to explain it in writing, and that's to be shown to all the town meeting representatives and the town, basically. So it just has to be explained. So
Yeah,
there's
I think-
basically an escape clause, as Janet will talk to you about at your meeting.
Good ideas are a work in progress, and you want to get everybody to come to the table and figure out what the best buy-in is, and maybe that is the solution, and
Yes.
maybe there's something that's a good alternative. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
Well, we only have a few minutes left, and I wondered if we could just have a quick take on the medical marijuana dispensary that's coming up in Lowell. Any thoughts on that?
I'd rather talk about Janet's thing, but I
Oh,
can.
no, talk about
No,
Janet's
I
thing.
really, I can understand why the other selectmen are lukewarm about it. The budget is the purview of town meeting reps, okay? The Board of Selectmen should not be passing a policy that steps on the toes of town meeting reps. That's just my position. Certainly, I'm in favor of relief for taxpayers. The problem is that if you cut the budget by $1 million, the average homeowner saves $70 a year in taxes. And what that means is that the wealthier people, the people with the more expensive houses, they get more of a break, and the people with the less expensive houses who could use it the most, they get the least. So I'm not sure that that's the solution, and I also think that policy is actually unenforceable from a legal perspective. So I'm certainly in favor of exploring opportunities.
Unenforceable from a legal, huh?
Because
I didn't know that.
a Board of Selectmen policy does not affect the town meeting reps. They're the ones who vote on the budget. And that's why when I hear selectmen candidates say, well, I'm going to cut the budget, that's not the selectmen's job.
But don't the selectmen vote on the budget?
They make
before-
recommendations. They make recommendations,
Yes.
but the
So
board.
couldn't this be like a policy with recommendations, or would that be possible?
Well, then what value is it?
Well, it's the recommendation, and it might be within the budget that's presented to town meeting, if the selectmen go along with it.
But Tom, anybody, any town meeting rep or any selectman could get up there, or a FinCom member could get up there and say, I want to earmark 50%, and here's why.
Yes.
And the town meeting will, but to establish a policy
Yes.
that again has this escape clause, I just don't see the value in it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, thank you, John. Well, our time is running up, but I wanted to quickly mention, since Andrew is here and he's going to be running for the seat that I'm leaving after 3 years, I just wanted to explain that I just felt that 3 years was a good amount of time to serve as a library trustee, and I thought it'd be nice to bring some fresh blood in there. I also I'm doing many other things in town I manage the Chelmsford Reps of Residence Group, the Chelmsford Arts Group, I have the TV show, I exercise a lot, as you know. I do a lot of volunteers for the Historical Society, so I just felt that I'd be better suited for my volunteer work in other ways rather than being committed to a meeting every month that I thought somebody else could do just as well, if not better, than I could. So it has nothing to do with the library, that I love the library, and I was just there tonight. So Andrew, you're going to love it too, because you're running unopposed. So, and I see our time is run out. Thank you very much, Joe.
No, and thank you for your service to the library.
Oh,
That
my
was
pleasure.
excellent.
Thanks, Joe. And I'm sure I'm going to see you many more times on the show. I hope if
I
you're
hope so.
available.
I hope so.
And that would be great, Joe. I thought you did a great job in the show, and best of luck with your campaign.
I appreciate
look
it.
forward to your campaign party on March 15th.
If you
or
don't
whatever
mind,
it
I'd
is.
just like to ask the
Yeah.
voters for their vote on April 1st. I'm Joe Reddy. I'm running for selectman, and I appreciate your consideration.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And Jon Kurland, thank you very much. And you're welcome to do the same thing if you want.
I'm Jon Kurland. I'm running for Town Moderator. I would look forward to and hope that you will consider my candidacy on April 1st.
Thanks, Jon. And thank you also, Andrew, for being here. You're running unopposed, but you're welcome to ask for people's vote if you'd like,
No.
quickly. Be awesome.
I would ask the selectmen to talk to the tree committee for that new project that you were talking about.
Absolutely.
Well,
Work together.
thank you, Andrew. And I'd like to thank this wonderful camera crew. These are a regular group of volunteers come in here every other week on a volunteer, unpaid basis, and I appreciate it so much, as does, I think, the town. George and Azora and Larry and our director, Pete Padula. Everybody does a great job on the show. Thank you very much. Ciao.